Some of the best environments that have ever existed in the Destiny world appeared in the Dreadnaught, the massive warship, dungeon, and personal hellscape of Oryx, the Taken King. Exploring the Dreadnaught was the peak of the original Destiny, as it was both a horrifying place to find yourself trapped in and a delightfully dense landscape full of mysteries to uncover. In the upcoming Destiny 2 expansion, The Witch Queen, players are again delving into the throne world of a deadly Hive god. With Savathun's throne world, developer Bungie looks to be pushing even harder on creating a twisted locale filled with frightening threats and deadly secrets. We recently got a chance to see about an hour of the Witch Queen in action during a hands-off preview, in which Bungie took us through the new destination, demonstrated some elements about the expansion story campaign, and showed how things such as weapon crafting will work. Like most Destiny 2 destinations, Savathun's throne world consists of locations you'll run through as part of the story campaign, as well as public areas you can explore at your leisure. The place looks to be comparable in size to the Dreaming City or the Dreadnaught. It'll consist of 3 public areas linked together, each with larger structures you can enter and depths to explore. The screenshots and videos of the throne world that Bungie has already shown off consist of Hive structures and dungeons, swampy areas, and a cleaner, white, city-like landscape. Destiny 2 creative director Joe Blackburn said during the presentation that the throne world is a reflection of Savathun's mind, and thus these locations manifest elements of her personality. The desolate swamps and dark halls of Hive dungeons represent Savathun's past, her years as a Hive god, and the species' dedication to death and conquest. Those things are being supplanted by her more recent desire for the light, which is represented by the city and its cathedral. From what we saw, that seems like it'll make different areas of the throne world feel very distinct from one another, and may even represent different objectives as you explore. In the city area, you'll find the Lucent Brood, Savathun's light-infused Hive enemies. These have different characteristics than the usual Hive enemies, even if they're not the light-bearing Hive guardians we've been seeing in the marketing. For instance, break the shield of a Lucent Hive enemy and, rather than it exploding, that shield will transform into a moth made of light, and quickly try to find another enemy to cling to and power up before you can shoot it down. If you venture too close, the moth will instead attack you, flying toward you to explode like a bomb. Meanwhile, the swampier parts of the throne world are populated by enemies that might have been left behind by Savathun's adoption of the light. The darker portions of the throne world contain enemies like the Scorn, those who served Savathun before, but who aren't as convinced about her change in ideology. It all suggests a throne world that might be at war with itself, reflecting internal struggles with Savathun. That lines up with the lore we've seen in the last year, which has shown Savathun struggling with conflicting feelings. Bungie also showed off a new mechanic that drives your explorations of the throne world, called Deep Sight. It allows Guardians to see things that are hidden in the throne world whenever they interact with specific nodes. In the preview, we saw Deep Sight reveal platforms and pathways. Since a big theme of the Witch Queen is doing psychic detective work, as Bungie has described it, the Deep Sight mechanic might be about more than just revealing invisible platforms. Back in September, Blackburn and Justin Truman, Destiny 2's general manager, described the Witch Queen as containing the definitive Destiny 2 campaign, and we got a sense of what that means in action during the preview. As in past expansions, starting up the Witch Queen will throw you into a story campaign that consists of multiple quests, each unlocking as you complete the last. These quests are going to see major changes from past expansions, however. Blackburn wouldn't put much of an exact length on the campaign in terms of hours, although he called this the meatiest campaign in a long time in Destiny 2, and said it would clock in as longer than that of Beyond Light. The additional length comes from Bungie's efforts to make the story missions bigger and more involved than in the past. In fact, story missions are borrowing more from endgame content like raids and dungeons. They'll challenge you more and dish out more rewards than past story missions have, so while they'll be longer, it sounds like they'll be worth replaying. The added rewards come in 2 flavors. First, story missions consist of the usual run from point A to point B structure we've seen in the past. At intervals, though, you'll run into what Bungie calls major encounters. These are moments like a boss fight in a dungeon or a raid, and you'll know you're in for a challenge when you see them. The arena you'll be fighting in will be obvious, you'll be able to drop a rally banner at the beginning of it to refill your ammo and ability energy, and you'll get a chest for completing them. Blackburn said story missions tend to have 2 or 3 major encounters, although that count isn't uniform across all of them, so you'll be earning lots of gear as you fight through the story. The second means for getting rewards is to play the campaign on the new Legendary difficulty, which will be about as tough as Legendary dungeons and raids and will dish out more and better rewards. Bungie said it believes Destiny 2 veterans will be able to solo the Legendary version of the story at the Witch Queen's launch, although it will be difficult. The good news is that the campaign features selectable missions, so you can switch between difficulties as necessary, with the challenge scaling automatically with the size of your fire team. In fact, you will want to complete the campaign on Legendary eventually, Bungie said. Doing so will earn you some additional rewards, although the developer didn't say what they'll be. The Witch Queen isn't the only story that'll be unfolding in Destiny 2 at launch. As it has in the recent past, Bungie is also launching the first content season of 2022 alongside the expansion, which we now know is called the Season of the Risen. It dovetails with the story of Savathun's throne world. The Lucent Brood have appeared, Hive Guardians are on the loose, and the solar system at large is responding to this new threat. In fact, the first person to come to the Vanguard's aid when these new Hive appear is Keitel, the Cabal Empress. Back in the Season of the Chosen, the Vanguard and the Cabal came to an uneasy truce. It looks like that diplomacy has paid off, although we have no idea what the details of the story of the Season of the Risen will be. We do know that you'll be getting some Cabal-themed gear, however. The preview showed off a couple of the new Cabal guns for the season, and it appears that the exotic weapon Grand Overture is also a Cabal weapon, mimicking the missile barrage of the Cabal Colossus enemy. The addition of origin traits, the new perk unique to specific sets of guns based on where they come from, means that the Cabal-themed guns in the Season of the Risen will have a new perk called Land Tank. That should be pretty useful to players taking on tough content during the early portion of the Witch Queen, as the trait will give you higher resilience and damage resistance as you rack up final blows with that gun. We don't know much else about the Season of the Risen, but it does suggest that, like the time loop in the Dreaming City, we'll be dealing with what's going on in Savathun's throne world for quite a while. Among the other major additions to Destiny 2 with the Witch Queen is the Enclave, where players will engage in the new weapon crafting system. The Enclave is a new physical location on Mars, which somehow returns after somehow vanishing at the end of Season of the Lost. Mars won't be a large playable area, but will instead be similar to what Phobos was during the Taken King expansion of Destiny 1. It looks to function a bit like your base of operations for the expansion, and also houses a darkness artifact called the Relic, which is where weapon crafting takes place. Bungie showed us a bit more about how weapon crafting will work, expanding on the recent This Week at Bungie blog post that ran the system down. In order to get guns you can craft, you'll need to unlock patterns. To get those, you'll hunt for random drop versions of the guns you want, ones that have a red border on their icon. This means the weapon comes with deep sight resonance, which is the key requirement to crafting. The deep sight resonance guns come with objectives to complete by using them, which will have you taking on activities and racking up kills. Completing those objectives will either earn you a pattern for the gun or currency that you'll use for crafting. Once you have a pattern, you can craft your own version of the gun and then add the perks you want to it, although not every gun can carry every perk, much like the random rolls you get on weapons right now. You'll also need to use the crafted gun in order to level it up, and as you do, more perks will become available to it. It seems like there will be a lot of currencies involved with the crafting system. We counted at least 4 during the presentation, although it's not clear what they all do or how tough to acquire they'll be. Destiny has definitely had issues with including tons of confusing, super specific currencies in the past, so that's a potential drawback with the crafting system. We'll have to see how it actually feels and functions by playing it, And like everything in Destiny 2, it's entirely possible Bungie will adjust it once players have had it in their hands for a bit if the currencies get unwieldy. You should also know that not every weapon will be craftable at the launch of Witch Queen, but there are no time gates or upper limits on how many weapons you can craft at the relic. The only limiting factor is how many materials you have. Blackburn said Bungie isn't looking to make weapon crafting a situation that's about making 10,000 daggers just to get one good one. Instead, you're going to be making very deliberate choices about the weapons you make, and Bungie wants you to develop a relationship with that weapon. The crafting system will even track the date you shaped your gun, and will note its level as you use it. What's more, the relic allows you to craft guns, to shape them, and then to recraft or reshape them. In essence, you won't have to keep 3 or 4 copies of the same gun with different perks in your vault, just in case one roll ends up becoming meta when Bungie makes changes to the Destiny 2 sandbox. Instead, you can take the one gun you made that you like, return to the relic, and change its perks around with the reshape option. It's still the same gun you've come to love, but crafting will allow it to be adaptable to changes in the game. Finally, we got a very quick taste of Bungie's coming adjustments to the Void subclasses, the first set of changes that are coming to the Light classes that have been part of Destiny 2 since its release. When Bungie released Stasis with Beyond Light, it also introduced a new, more involved user interface for the subclass that allowed for greater customization with elements called fragments and aspects. That system is coming to the other subclasses, although one at a time, and the first up is Void. The new Void interface looks almost exactly like the Stasis one, and it sounds like it'll function in the same way, with players earning aspects and fragments to further customize their subclasses to their playstyles. In its Witch Queen Vidoc, Bungie devs joked that all players will now be able to use suppression grenades, and to some degree, elements that used to be reserved to a certain class are being democratized to all through the use of aspects and fragments. We don't have too many other details on the Void 3.0 system, but Bungie noted that players who've been in the game for a while will have instant access to everything they currently use to make up their Void subclasses. In other words, you won't need to re-unlock your standard Void grenades or melee attacks. You'll have them as soon as you log into the game. As for the newer additions, Bungie isn't going to gate them too hard for players who've been in the game for a while. There will be a place in the tower you can visit to upgrade your Void subclass for currency, so you won't have to go on lengthy quests to earn the new elements coming to the system. You'll be able to enjoy it quickly. But we're not yet sure who you'll have to visit or what you'll need to spend to get these new Void elements. There's a whole lot about the Witch Queen we don't yet know, but Bungie's preview event at least gave a sense of what the new expansion will be like. The additions to weapons and classes look like significant improvements, and there will be plenty to uncover in Savathun's throne world. Guardians will have to uncover anything more than that by themselves when the Witch Queen launches on February 22nd.